Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to TNS RV Adventures. I hope you all had a good holiday. Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's. It's January the 17th, and I'm going to show you what I've been up to. Been switching our batteries from a lead acid type of battery, single, to lithium iron phosphate batteries, dual. Two 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate batteries. I'm not going to go into all the pluses and minuses of lithium iron phosphate batteries. You can find that out on the web, but two things I will mention. Lithium iron phosphate batteries are totally different than a lithium battery that you may have heard spontaneously combust. Totally different batteries. Number two, these lithium iron phosphate batteries, like you would put in an RV, are not for starting engines. They're for sustained power draw. And there's one drawback to them. Below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, you can't charge them. The batteries have to be kept above 32 degrees Fahrenheit in order to be able to charge them. They will discharge. You can use power out of the batteries down to like 0, but you can't charge them below 32 degrees. So, all that being said, here's what you need to think about. Select lithium iron phosphate batteries that have internal battery warmers that keeps them above 32 degrees, so you can always charge them. Or get a lithium iron phosphate battery that doesn't have internal heating capabilities, but you can use heating pads on the outside of the battery case to keep them warm. So that's what I did. I didn't get internal batteries or internal warmers for the batteries. I just used a real small RV tank heater pad and stuck it to the outside of the battery. And I've got a blanket around the batteries to help keep them warm. And that heating pad is stuck to the outside of it. Now that heating pad only takes a half an amp, but that's something to think about. The other thing to think about is how you're going to monitor the battery. What's going on with it. Now you can either use a battery that has an internal Bluetooth capabilities with the BMS, the battery management system, or you can get like a Victron smart shunt to put on it, so you can monitor what the battery's doing, whether it's charging, discharging, how charged it is, what's the state of the charge of the battery, so on and so forth. Research all of that and come up with the best solution that's going to fit your needs. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I'm going to show you what I've been up to and all this wiring and stuff that I'm doing inside here. This is in the front storage bay of our fifth wheel under the nose. Okay, here's what's going on. I'll give you a picture of what it used to look like with a single battery. And all this wiring you see back in here is what I've been up to. Now here's our two lithium iron phosphate batteries, 100 amp hours each, right? And on the positive of each battery, you see a marine rated battery fuse. This thing right here. This is a marine rated battery fuse. each one of those is a 125 amp fuse. So if you got any shorts or whatever, the fuse blows and it kills the power to the battery. Okay, each battery has one of those on it. You can see them right there. And then here's our negative connections to the battery. Okay, now each battery positive comes up into these two switches. These are battery kill switches. They're rated for 300 amps each. All you got to do is turn that dial to off, and that kills the power going into the coach from the batteries. All right, from the switch is, it goes up to a positive bus bar that you can see there. That bus bar is rated for 200 amps each. No, 250 amps each. Sorry, 250 amps each. That bus bar has big positive connections as well as secondary smaller connections. And there is the ground bus bar. The coach, the RV, is connected to that, as well as the negative on each battery. And similarly with the positive bus bar, the RV is connected to that bus bar, as well as both batteries. And coming off of it, you see secondary connections. Okay, here you can see the bus bars a little better. Each one of the battery cables are connected to the studs, as well as smaller circuits coming off of here and up here. This circuit up here coming off to these two fuses, and this switch is for the battery heating pads, the battery warmers. And the battery warmers are right down here in the side of the battery cases. And you can see the blanket that I've got around the batteries. This device up here is a lithium iron phosphate only battery charger. Its sole purpose is to fast charge these batteries. And it's connected via 120 volts AC through this cable up here. Converts it into DC high amperage down here to the bus bars with these two wires, red and black. So it feeds both batteries at the same time. Now down here in the corner behind this case, which I'm not going to take off, but that is the main bus bar behind it. The main RV bus bar is behind this little panel. And you can see the battery connection down there below, right there. That's coming off of the positive bus bar. So this is much more easy to install two batteries. I know these are installed in parallel, not series. So that bus bar, the red one up there, has 12 volts on it. And so these batteries are wired in parallel. And with these shut-off switches, it's safety so that I can shut off the batteries to the whole system. That little thing right over here, this thing is the repeater for the TPMS system for the tires. That's what it is, and I haven't got it connected yet. But you can see what I've been up to here. I've got it all wired up. There's a big winter storm coming in Monday. Oh, hit my head. A big winter storm coming in here to Galveston. That's where we are right now. And so I wanted to get all this wiring and stuff done to get these two batteries hooked in parallel before that winter storm gets here. So we should be able to stay off grid, off electrical power grid for a long time. We just have to watch our usage. But this is what I've been up to, and I'll explain a little bit more about it here in just a minute. Okay, as you will see, I've got my batteries in battery cases. Now, you don't have to do that with these lithium iron phosphate batteries. You don't have to have any cases on them. They're not vented. I chose to do that so that I can keep them more secured, keep them from moving around. And each one of these battery boxes was $12, and these are Group 31 batteries, so they're big. But I just chose to use these battery boxes because it's just easier to secure it and cheap. Like I said, the cases were $12 a piece, so no big deal there. One thing I want to mention too about a BMS and Bluetooth capabilities to monitor the batteries. Make sure when you're checking these things out that the range on the Bluetooth is pretty far. Whether you use a smart shunt or whether you use the battery's BMS, see if you can find out how far they'll transmit so that you can monitor your batteries from inside your truck as you're going down the highway. Just something to think about. Now I'm not going to get into the differences on all these batteries, whether it's a lead acid battery or a glass mat battery, AGM, or lithium iron phosphate. You choose whatever you want. But these lithiums, you can charge them all the way down to, below 10 volts, and you won't hurt them. A lead acid battery, if you charge it below or discharge it below 50%, you could hurt the battery. You kill its longevity is what I'm trying to say. So these lithium iron phosphates will last a lot longer. You can discharge them a lot farther, and you can also charge them up faster. They'll take high amperage to charge them up, and that's what I showed you a while ago, that lithium only battery charger. That's its sole purpose, is to fast charge these lithium batteries. So make the best decision that you can on what your needs are, and then go that way. Our lead acid battery was 5 years old, and it was getting old and wasn't holding the charge very well, so I decided to just upgrade to lithium and forget it. Now, lithium iron phosphate batteries, like for RVs, the ones that I've showed you here, are coming down in price. $200, $300 a piece, right? Depending upon the options you've got in the battery. Battleborn is a U.S. battery, lithium iron phosphate battery manufacturer here in the U.S., and they're real expensive. But make the decision on which kind of battery type you want, and what kind of options is in it. Number one, does it have Bluetooth capability? Number two, is it internal heated? Now, if you're not going to camp in really cold weather, then you don't have to mess around with worrying about how warm your batteries are, okay? But here we're going to have a freak storm in Galveston, right on the Gulf Coast, and it's going to get down into the 20s. We're going to have snow, freezing rain, and sleet. Let me move here and get off my knees. And so the batteries up here in this front storage compartment, where it's not heated and it's not insulated. And so I was monitoring them the other day without the heaters on, and at what was it the other day when I was monitoring it? The temperature got down to like 43 degrees, and the battery internal temperatures were like 40. And so you don't have to worry about it until it gets to 32 or below, right? So that's why I bought these heating pads and put in here, just to keep the batteries warm. And that switch that I showed you, this switch right here controls the battery warmers. It's just on and off. Now, my heating pads or blankets that I put in here are not self-regulating. In other words, there's no temperature probe on it to shut them on and off. They're just, like I said, they're on or off. There's no thermostat on them. And so when it gets close to being like 32 degrees, I'll come in here and turn this switch on. Now, each one of these warmers only uses a half an amp, so 1 amp total. And out of these 100 amp batteries, that's not much of a draw at all. So I'm not going to worry about it. All right. But you choose whatever it is that you want. A lot of these heating blankets or pads do have temperature control, so they'll turn on and off automatically. I think it gets down to 40 degrees. That turns them on, and whatever the thermostat is set at. But like I said, we don't plan on camping in really cold weather that much. So I didn't want to go with the increased cost of having battery internal warmers or getting really expensive heating pads with thermostats. I just went simple, right? Heating pads like for an RV holding tank, on or off, just small enough it fits along the side of the battery like I was showing you. Takes a 1/2 amp each. But you go with whatever best suits your needs. Okay? Now, up here on the top of this storage compartment is where all the leveling system is, and some of the slide controls are up in here too. So just be aware of your surroundings and what you're hooking up. And I kind of hurried hooking all this stuff up to get ahead of the storm, but I'm going to do a little more cleaning up and make the wires look a whole lot better in connection here. But like I said, I just wanted to get it all hooked up. And these main switches are nice because if you go, let's say you take your RV to a dealership to get it fixed, or you take it to the factory. It may be a week, 2 weeks, a month. It sits there without them working on it, right? And so your batteries will bleed down to nothing. And so you can take these main switches here. That's battery 1, and this one's battery 2. You can turn these switches off, and it kills the power coming out of the batteries to save your batteries. It won't discharge them. So that's another convenience of having these switches. If you take your RV to get it fixed, and it's going to be days or months before they can get to it, turn these battery switches off. That way it'll save the charge in your battery, and it won't deplete them all the way to 0. So that's another plus of having these. They're pretty stout switches. Like I said, they're rated at 300 amps each. So the overkill on these components is way above anything that these batteries are going to be discharging at. And the fuses on the positive leads of the batteries are 125 amp fuses, so they'll blow if too much power gets pulled out of the batteries, or there's a short circuit or whatever. All the safety is built in here, right? And you can see my bus bars have got caps on them. But still, it's a good idea to keep things away from your wiring, keep things away from your batteries, and research it really well before you make a decision. Now, our batteries cost $200 each. They've got like a 10-year warranty. You know, those bus bars, a lot of this stuff was bought on Amazon. So just go searching through Amazon and look at the stuff. Get the best components you think you'll need. Put together a plan and go for it. Now, if you're not very knowledgeable on electricity and amperage and big cables and all that kind of stuff, leave it alone. Don't mess with it. Get somebody else to do it. There are companies that'll install these kind of things. And one thing I should mention is we do not have solar power. We don't have solar panels. So there's no solar charge controller here. Over here, these are the cables for the solar panels if we had them. But like I said, we do not. And so there's no separate solar controller here. Something else you got to think about too is your converters or inverters, depending on what you have in your RV. You may have both. But here's something to think about too on your converters. A lot of the converters they put in these RVs are not lithium capable. They cannot charge, or they're not made to charge lithium batteries. Now, they'll still charge a battery, but very, very slow. And so you might want to look into changing your converter to something that is capable of charging lithium iron phosphate batteries. That's something else you want to look into. Now, our converter is a LifePO4 9855 AD, or auto detect. It's supposed to auto detect if you have a lithium battery or not. Well, it don't. But it will charge these lithium batteries. It just takes twice or three times longer than the specific charger I showed you a while ago. That big box charger I showed you a while ago is a lithium only charger, and it'll charge these batteries up quickly. It'll get up to 20 amps in charging these batteries, so it doesn't take very long at all. And we can run it off our generator. If we're off grid, these batteries need to be charged. We can hook up the generator and fire up the lithium charger, and it'll recharge the batteries back up in about, well, depending on how far down they are. Let's say they're down to 50-60%. In 2 hours, it can have them recharged again. So just check into all the components. Put a game plan together. Think about what you want to do, how you camp, how you want to use it, and then put a plan together. Start looking at the items, switches, bus bars, converters, inverters, all that kind of thing. Come up with a game plan, get your list of parts together, get it all together, and then go forward. Now, one thing I'll tell you is on these battery wire sizes. Let me give you a little bit of rundown on that. These cables that you see coming in to the bottom, this is coming from the batteries. Now those are 2 AWG cables, size, 2-aught, okay, big, but they can handle high amperage. Coming out at the top is also 2 gauge going into the bus bar. Those are 2 gauge cables. They're huge, yeah, and a little more expensive, but they can handle high amperage. Same thing down here on the negative bus bar. Those are 2 gauge cables. Now, depending on how far you're going to go and how many amps you're going to pump out and all that kind of stuff helps you size the wires. Now, coming out of this bus bar, this cable right here is a 4 gauge. It goes down and feeds into the bottom down here to the RV's bus bar. That's a 4 gauge cable. Now, throughout the rest of the RV, going up into the distribution panel and into the converter and all that, is 6 gauge. Now, I didn't want to go change all of that wire all throughout the coach. But what I've done here is that with this lithium charger, I can isolate the converter, disconnect it from charging the batteries, and then turn on that lithium iron phosphate only charger, and it feeds down in to the bus bar right here with this cable and right here with this cable, and then through the circuit back through the switches into the batteries. And so you can fast charge the batteries. Now that's why I went with these big cables. It's overkill, but I didn't want to skimp on wire sizes and any of that kind of stuff. They're bigger than what they need to be, but that's just the way I wanted to do it. Okay? But check all that stuff out. And like I said, if you're not comfortable working around electricity, if you're not comfortable with this kind of thing, don't do it. Get somebody you trust to install your system, especially if you've got a combination of generator, solar, and grid power. That can be rather complicated to figure out, and there are devices on the market that will control all of that. But I just wanted to show you what I've been up to, and we're ready for this big winter storm that's coming, so I just wanted to show you. I've been up inside of this thing and working on my hands and knees up in here, hooking all this stuff up and wiring it. And like I said, most of this stuff I bought off of Amazon or from local hardware stores and whatnot. I got a couple more things to hook up, like the TPMS circuit, but I'm not worried about that because we're not moving until March. But anyway, that's what I've been up to. Just thought I'd show you that. Here's a screenshot of our BMS Bluetooth battery app for our battery number 1. You can see it there above the arc, listed as ASC battery 1. It shows you the state of the charge and the remaining capacity for battery 1 on 102.27 amp hours. A little bit farther down, you can see that it's showing the amount of current in amperage going in or out of the battery, which right now is at 0. Also, just to the left, you'll see the voltage at 13.65 volts. Underneath that, you see the voltage high and the voltage low and the voltage differential between the 4 cells that are in each battery. Using the same app on my iPhone, we're showing here ASC battery 2. The state of charge is 100%. The remaining capacity is 104.48. It's showing you the same thing that was listed on ASC battery 1. So you can switch back and forth between each battery to see what's the charge in or out of the battery in amperage and voltage in each cell. Now, using this battery app, if you scroll down, it'll also show you the battery temperature. And you see it there on the right with a little thermometers at. Right now, the battery is setting at 65.7 degrees Fahrenheit. And right below that, you can see the charge on each one of the 4 cells within the battery. So this is just an example of the information that you can get out of the battery using the Bluetooth application that comes with the battery brand and what the BMS is reporting. So anyway, you can see what I've been up to with installing our lithium batteries and doing all the wiring and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully this was good information for you. Just somebody else adding lithium to their coach and how they did it, and so on. So we're getting ready for this big storm that's coming in, and Tam and I'm going to hunker down, and it's going to get cold. It's going to get snowy, 1 to 3 inches maybe, ice, sleet. So we're hunkered down. We got groceries. We're ready to go. So y'all take care out there, and we'll see you.